Hello, my name is Ayodeji Ameze and I'm here to teach biology. We're going to be looking at the topic Excretory Systems, Part 1. At the end of today's class, we should be able to identify and describe the different types of excretory systems in animals. We should also be able to explain the mechanisms of some of the excretory organs. First and foremost, what is excretion? Excretion in biology basically is defined as the process by which living things remove metabolic waste substances from within them. What are systems? A system is defined as a group of organs that work together to perform specific functions. Therefore, an excretory system is simply a system in which an organism removes metabolic wastes and excess water from its body. I want to say a few things before we continue. Bodily waste. There are different types of bodily waste. By that I mean waste that comes from the bodies of organisms. Waste can come from excess food substances that the body cannot break down or that the body does not need anymore. Those substances, when they are removed, most times they are removed during the process of digestion. On the other hand, some other wastes that are being removed by the body are metabolic waste products. Products that come from chemical reaction that takes place in the body. Example, sweat, urine, etc. Or substances that enter into the body that the body really does not need. For example, when we put on our cosmetic products, like our lipstick, sometimes not intentionally, some of these things enter into our bodies. The body does not actually need them, so it finds a way to take it off. So these are some different body wastes that are produced. But for the purpose of this class, we are looking at metabolic wastes because most times when we talk about excretion, we generally think of going to the toilet to poop, excrete, defecate. But we won't be hearing so much of those things because we are looking at excretion, not necessarily exgestion, which comes from this, but excretion comes more from this. Let's look at the different types of excretory systems that we have in different organisms, knowing that different organisms have different type of excretory structures based on probably their sizes or the kind of things they ingest. For example, simple unicellular organisms. By unicellular, we mean one-cell organisms. They use contractile vacuole for excretion. Or invertebrates. By invertebrates, we mean organisms that do not have backbone. We have structures like the MALPIGHIAN tubules, flame cells, nephridia as their structures for excretion. Or invertebrates, that is, animals that have backbones. They use kidneys. We'll look at them one after the other. Let's look at excretory structures in unicellular organisms. There are different unicellular organisms. What are unicellular organisms? Like I said earlier, unicellular organisms are organisms that are made up of only one cell. You wonder, is that really possible? Yeah, there are organisms that have only one cell. That's all they are made up of. For example, we have the paramecium, the amoeba, the euglena, etc. These organisms most times live in watery environments. Like the amoeba itself, the amoeba lives in a freshwater environment. In this freshwater, they take in water, not intentionally, but water kind of seeps into their body. When this water becomes too much, they will gradually swell if nothing is done about the water, and after a while, they'll burst open. So the contractile vacuole in these organisms help to pump out the excess water, thereby acting as an osmoregulator. Let's take a typical example, the amoeba. Remember, we say that most unicellular organisms live in water. The amoeba particularly lives in fresh water, and it has the contractile vacuole, as we can see here. After a while, when water has entered into the amoeba, gradually, some of this excess water begins to seep in to the contractile vacuole. When the contractile vacuole gets full to a point, it goes to the edge of the amoeba, as we can see here, and opens up, thereby releasing excess water content. This is how the amoeba excretes excess water from its body. Now let's look at excretory systems in flatworms. What are flatworms? They're a group of soft-bodied invertebrates. By invertebrates, we mean they do not have backbones. Usually, they are very flat, as we can see from our image here. This is a planarian. You see how flat it is? It's a flatworm. Flatworms can either be parasites or free-living. A typical example of a free-living flatworm is the planarian. They live in fresh water. The structure the planarian uses for excretion is known as the flame cell. So how do this flame cell work? Let's take planarian as an example. The planarian has two tubes within it that serve as excretory structures. These tubes are branched. At the tip of these branches, we find cells known as flame cells. These flame cells, as we can see from this bloated diagram, are the points through which excretion occurs. The flame cell picks up waste product from within the planarian, beats it through the tube takes it down, and out of the planarian, that substance goes off. Within this flame cell, let's note that there are cilias. Cilias are simply tiny hair-like structures that keep beating. This beating action is what propels the waste product out of the tubes. Now let's look at the excretory structure in earthworms. What are earthworms? On a rainy day, you can find earthworms outside. Earthworms basically live in soil, but they like soil that is a little moist. They can't live in an environment that is really dry. They cannot survive. They are pinkish, soft-bodied worms, usually found in soil. That's our earthworm here. Each body of the earthworm is segmented. You can see the tiny lines that makes the body of the earthworm look like it's divided into tiny bits. And in each of these segments, we find tubes. These tubes are called nephridia. The singular form is nephridium. This nephridia is the structure used for excretion in the earthworm. How does the nephridia work in the earthworm to help it excrete its waste? First and foremost, the nephridium, remember nephridium is for singular, is a coiled tube. It begins as a ciliated funnel-shaped structure known as the nephrostome. This nephrostome continues down in a tube form into another segment of the earthworm. The nephrostome continues in this tube. The tube has the narrow ciliated part of the tube. It has the middle ciliated part. Ciliated means it has cilia. Cilia is simply very tiny hair-like structures that help movement of substances. It also has the wide, non-ciliated tube. It means that this part of the tube does not have cilia. It has the muscular tube. The tube moves down with its different parts down through to another pore known as the nephridial pore, as we can see right here. This is the second opening of the excretory structure of the earthworm. Now, body fluid and nitrogenous waste enters in from one segment to the other through the nephrostome, down through the tubes, through which useful substances in the fluid are absorbed. In the tube, substances that pass through the nephrostome into it, that the earthworm's body thinks it still needs to function properly, is absorbed from it. What is left of the fluid goes out through the nephridial pore. And that's how the earthworm expels substances it does not need from its body. Some other way through which the earthworm removes its waste products is by simple diffusion. Waste such as carbon dioxide. We are going to look at the excretory structure in insects. First and foremost, let's describe the insect a little. If I ask you to name an insect, you would call an ant. Yes, that's an insect. The common housefly. Yes. The mosquitoes. Yes, these are all insects. But do not call a spider. The spider is not an insect. Let's look at a typical insect. A typical insect should have its body divided into three parts, three major parts: the head, the thorax, and the abdominal part. Just like we can segment a man into his head part, his thorax, that's the chest region, and the abdomen. Although the man is not divided into just these three parts, but for the purpose of explaining this division in insects, we are making this comparison. So we have the head, the thorax area, and the abdomen. Most insects have a pair of wings, like we see in our common housefly, in the mosquitoes, etc. Not all insects will have wings though, like the ants. Some of the ants we see around do not have wings, but they are still insects. Another thing that characterizes an insect is that it often has three pairs of legs. The excretory structure used in insects is known as the MALPIGHIAN tubule. MALPIGHIAN tubules are simply slender tubes that are found between the midgut and the hindgut of the insect. This area is our MALPIGHIAN tubule, as we can see here. One end of the MALPIGHIAN tubule opens into the gut, while the other end opens into the hemocoel. The hemocoel is simply a cavity, a space, an opening within that insect. This is an insect. When we pick this end part of the insect here, we can find our MALPIGHIAN tubule, as we've seen in this increased sized image here. It is found between the midgut and the hindgut. This end that is found inside here is the end that is open into the hemocoel. Remember I said the hemocoel is a cavity, an open space within that animal. The other end opens into the gut cavity, as we can see from our image here. When nitrogenous waste and water enters in through the hemocoel from the MALPIGHIAN tubule, the end that is found in the hemocoel area, that nitrogenous waste enters in through the tube. Inside the tube, there's absorption of water or reabsorption of water, excess water that has entered into the MALPIGHIAN tubule that the ant or the insect thinks it still needs is reabsorbed into the ant back again. What will be left after this reabsorption will just be a solid crystal. This solid crystal further undergoes reabsorption as it moves down through the rectal gland. That's why most times insects, their excretors are usually solid or semi-solid. We've come to the end of today's class. Let's do a little recap of what we have learned. We learned that there are different types of excretory systems, depending on how complex, the size of the organism, and all of that. We also learned that some excretory systems found in simple unicellular organisms, the contractile vacuole. In invertebrates, we have MALPIGHIAN tubules, flame cells, and nephridia. We also learned that in vertebrates, we have kidneys. Just to test a little of how much we have learned, I'd like to ask us a question. Dash is the excretory structure found in earthworms. The flame cell, or the nephridia, or the contractile vacuole. Remember, we said the flame cells are the excretory structures for flatworms. We learned that the nephridia is the excretory structure for the earthworm. And the contractile vacuole, most times, is the excretory structure used by simple unicellular organisms. So our correct answer here is earthworm. Thank you for listening.